A couple of videos ago, I had mentioned that the Dems are just, they really love calling Trump a Nazi, and that I didn't believe that they would actually be able to identify a Nazi if they were slapped in the ass by one. And I did some digging, and uh, so the Nazis were an incredibly prolific, violent, repressive group. They, without warrant, without warning, they would go door to door. They would pull military age men or any man, able bodied, child or not, from their homes to become soldiers in the German army. They would pull Jewish people, people of different religious beliefs, people of different color, and so on. They would go in day or night into their homes, into their businesses. They would pull them with no warrant, no explanation, no due process. They would pull them and they would take them into concentration camps. They would use them for labor. They would execute them. They would seize all of their property and use it for their own profit and purpose. During the Nazi regime, you were not allowed to speak out. They banned TV stations, radio stations, and newspapers coming in and out of Germany that had any negative comments to make or concerns about the Nazi Party and the regime run by Adolf Hitler. There was no protesting allowed. There was no free speech. There was no hate speech. There was no nothing allowed. You were not allowed on the street unless you had Nazi permission. You could not speak out against anybody. You were subject to imprisonment without a trial or due process if you said anything that they deemed derogatory or negative about Hitler or the Nazi regime. They deported people who were born and raised there. If they were Polish or they were from some nation they didn't like, they would just take and throw them out, literally grab them and throw them over the border without due process or warrant. So compare that to the Trump administration and Donald Trump. Well, you call Donald Trump a Nazi, you call him a killer and a murderer, and he's going to turn around and call you garbage. He's going to meet you toe to toe. And if you get nasty with him in a battle of wits or a battle of words, he's going to rise to the challenge. He's not arresting you. He's not ordering you to stop. He's hitting you back with his own nonsense. People are protesting all the time. People are assaulting law enforcement, all branches of law enforcement, 24/7. A woman just this morning, a protester, a rioter, after assaulting a police officer, ran him over with her big black SUV. Then she crashed into a car and was subsequently killed. If Trump was a Nazi, this incident never would have happened because she would never have been allowed to be out on the street and protest. You couldn't walk out on the street in Nazi Germany without a reason. And if they, wanted to harass you or grab you or arrest you for any reason at all, they're in a bad mood, they're having a bad day, they wanted your bagel, whatever, they could do that, and they did. He's not grabbing people off the street. When any branch of law enforcement goes in to take somebody from their home or their business, it's by lawful warrant. And a warrant is just exceedingly mind-numbing, detailed document that has to give probable just cause 100%. And they have to take that to a judge, and a judge gets to sign it or not. And if the judge doesn't sign it, they can't get that person. They can't search their home. They can't search their car. They can't do anything. You have to have a warrant for everything. If you have a warrant to go in and search someone's house, and your focus is their laptop, and you go in and you find out that their laptop is actually a keyboard, wireless keyboard that links up to their big screen TV, you can't take the TV because your warrant says laptop. The pitiful and pathetic attacks on the Trump administration and Donald Trump himself, in and of themselves, those attacks are vile and violent and tasteless and very much Nazi-like. For Walz, or any governor for that matter, or any person in a political position, accuses his citizens of being racist because they have an opinion that differs from his, that's Nazism. So for Walz to jump around and say that it's racist to call out these criminals just because they happen to be of color and they happen to be from a different country, they're still criminals. But then he starts attacking everybody in Minnesota, his own people in Minnesota, calling us racist because we want this fraud stopped. We want these criminals taken to justice. He's the Nazi. That is Nazism. To allow your violent hordes under the Marxist flag of BLM to burn down an elite city in the United States, burn it to the ground, that's Nazism. Nazis would come in, and you could be sleeping in your bed with your little baby in a cradle on the other side of the room, and those motherfuckers would go in there in the 30s, 40s, they would go in there and they would torch your home. If you were in a church praying and they felt like it, they would lock you in and burn your church. Trump isn't doing any of those things. The Democrats, however, are doing those things. They are resorting to violence against law enforcement, complete disregard for law enforcement, complete disregard for rights, law, and order, which the Nazis did too. They didn't care about law and order. There was no due process. There was no justice. There was no trials. There was no warrants. There was no investigations. They just went in and got you because they felt like it. So when a angry mob of woke Democrats start throwing objects at ICE officers, getting in their way, shooting at them, running them down, that's violence against justice and due process, a complete disregard for the law and order of the land. And that's what the Nazis did. It didn't care what was in their constitution or on Germany's books. They did what they wanted. Trump is not preventing you from protesting. Trump is not going door to door and pulling your sons out and putting them on a military base and forcing them into conscription. He is not telling you that you are not allowed to have your free voice. He is not seizing control of radio stations and newspapers and nothing like that, because he's always talking about the damn fake news. If he was a Nazi, he would have closed those news stations down. He would have ended the life of the newspapers that were talking trash about him. Instead, like with the BBC, he's suing their asses. He's taking it to court, which is the correct legal process for handling dipshittery, dumbfuckery, and stupidity. Trump is not a dictator. If he was a dictator, he would be dictating what everything can be done, how it can be done, when it can be done, and he wouldn't care. He's not a Nazi. He's not a dictator. Educate your damn selves. Because there are a lot of people who are not educated, who are mentally ill, who are going to believe what you say, and they are going to do their homework, and they are going to Google it or chat it or whatever, and they're going to find out all these horrible things, and they're going to believe that he's doing things that he's not because you big loud mouth basses, are out there calling him something he's not. And when you call him a Nazi, those of us that know better, that know the definition of a Nazi, know he's not acting like the Nazi regime did. You just look stupid and foolish. So Trump isn't a Nazi. If he was, we wouldn't have incidents like today, where a woman was free to protest and free to run down law enforcement officers. She put their lives in danger, and they have the right to shoot to kill. If she had surrendered, if she hadn't, rammed her car into another vehicle, so hard into the other vehicle it went up and over the hood, if she hadn't been so violent and aggressive, she may be in custody today. And those that get arrested at the protests are getting arrested for attacking people, blocking, because you can't disrupt law enforcement's actions. It's called obstruction of justice, and you're not allowed to do that. It's a crime. Not a Nazi attitude, but an actual crime on the books in every state and in the United States federal books as well. It is obstruction of justice, and they have the right to detain you. But with the Nazis, you disappeared. And most of the time, you never were seen or heard from again. At least when you are picked up for trespassing or obstruction of justice or assaulting an ICE officer, you're going to go into a jail. You're going to get a bail hearing. You're going to probably make bail and get a court hearing, and then you're free to go. That didn't happen in Nazi Germany. So unless you want me and others to stop calling you stupid, garbage, inconsequential, irrelevant, mentally deranged, you need to stop calling Trump and his cabinet Nazis. Because factually, your accusation doesn't hold water. So you lack credibility. And right now, I think that the Democratic Party lacks a lot of credibility in a lot of areas. We found out today, there were more details given today, that we did not invade Venezuela. We are not establishing a kangaroo government. Apparently, before they even went and got Maduro, there is an interim Venezuelan governmental body that is running the show there. And they're doing it in partnership with us because we're trying to get our oil out of there. We are not running their country. We are not owning their country. We are not seizing anything. We're grabbing our oil and we're leaving. And we will help support the interim government any way they need our support. But they actually have a Venezuelan government there, not an American government, but a Venezuelan one. And as far as Greenland goes, because I can't figure out why would you want to buy Greenland, especially when we need those dividend checks you've been talking about. Well, apparently, and I just, and I know I'd heard things before. We have many military bases out there. We own land there. We own mineral rights mines there, the rare earth mineral mines. We actually own parts of Greenland already and have military bases there. And the reason that Trump feels it's imperative that we have ownership of Greenland is because Denmark's rules and regs aren't going to prevent Russia and China from encroaching on and seizing Greenland for themselves. And Greenland is positioned in such a way that they could set up shop there. North Korea, Russia, Iran, China, any of our adversaries, they could set up shop there, prop up a nuke, and blow us to bits. So strategically and geographically, to protect America, to protect our land, our mineral mines, and our military bases and military men and women that are there on Greenland already, we need to own it. Because if it's under the rule of Denmark, their rules are different, and they will not be able to hold themselves up against any kind of aggression, encroachment, or military action by any of the adversaries previously named: Russia, China, North Korea, Iran. But we have the ability to do that. And that makes a little more sense now than it did before. I'm feeling a little better about Venezuela and about Greenland, but I'm still pissed. Because if you got the money for Greenland, you got the money for dividends. I want to see those dividends. But the Maha people, RFK Jr. and stuff, they went on a press conference with Caroline Leavitt today, and they discussed the new rules and regs for SNAP, EBT, and WIC, and that stores and convenience stores and supermarkets and places that are going to have that, they're going to have to double up on their healthy foods, and they are going to have to supply certain fruits, vegetables, meats, cheeses, etc., poultry, eggs, that kind of thing. They're going to be required to have all of those things on hand, whether you're a convenience store or supermarket, and you are going to have to double the healthy stuff, keep a double stock of it at all times if you are going to be eligible to accept EBT, WIC, SNAP, etc. And they've changed the food pyramid. They did some changing around with that to promote healthy fats and very healthy eating. The tie-ins with your health and all that looks pretty good. And some slight mention to, how prices are starting to inch down, a penny here, a penny there. It's still not enough. I'm still not cool with it. But that they're aware that that prices have to come down, because that's affordability is one of the things that they're going to be focusing on this year. Brooke Rollins and RFK Jr. and Osmet, Dr. Oz and stuff, all of those yoo-hoots there. They're going to be taking care of that and working with the farmers and the agriculture. So I feel a little better about that too. So yeah, I'm feeling a little better about a few things that have been bothering me the last week or so. I also now have a better understanding of the Greenland and Venezuela situations. I'm still not satisfied because I was told we were going to get Doge dividends and we were going to get tariff dividends, and we have not seen any of it, and we need to start seeing that stuff. Don't open your mouth unless you want to put your money in it. But other than that, I do feel a little better today. And I wanted to clarify the Nazi comment that I had made, because I said it was ironic how the Dems are always running around calling him a Nazi, and in fact, he's far from it. And I wanted to give you examples of why they are wrong. I love making sure that they're wrong. Yeah, so there you have it. And until next time, do good and be good.